you've liked what you've seen here through the first 3 episodes, and a couple things to take from a macro level perspective. For the Giant fan out there, number one, that thinks the co-owner John Mara, is this meddling co-owner that it's got to be his way or the highway, or is in control of personnel decisions, or is in control. That has got to go out the window. That nonsense has got to come to an end. I've said this before. If you own something, number one, the questions that needed to be asked or have to be asked because you co-own the team. In this instance, obviously, co-owns it with Tish. But if you own something on the whole, you're going to ask those that you put in charge to run that particular entity the necessary questions that need to be asked, right? Any owner in any professional sports is going to do that. Hal's going to do that with the Yankees. Cohen's going to do that with the Mets. Tish and Mara are going to do that with the Giants. Woody Johnson's going to do that with the Jets. Name any single owner, and if you're not doing it, then you are an absolute and complete utter fool. And there are Giant fans out there, and I get, you haven't won a Super Bowl since 2011. I understand that, it didn't look good with Gettleman. And you look at Joe Judge and Shermer, and now the instance of Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. Great year one, bad year two. We'll see exactly what year three brings for the New York Giants, and we'll get to that combination here momentarily. But John Mara, to me, when you look at it, and what you've seen so far here through the first 3 episodes as the Giants co-owner is that he is asking his general manager that he put in charge to run this organization in Joe Shane the questions that needed to be asked. Obviously, coming in from a business perspective as well when it comes to Saquon Barkley, because he said it properly so. By far, Saquon Barkley is the most popular New York Giant. He sells jerseys left and right. There are Barkley jerseys running all over the place. My youngest son, Gregory, was in tears when he learned that Saquon Barkley was going to be a Philadelphia Eagle who was leaving the New York Giants. One of his great days as a 7-year-old last year during the course of training camp had an opportunity to meet Saquon, and he was as proud as a peacock. So I get it. And that is the necessary question that needs to be asked if you're John Mara. But here's the deal. For anybody that looks at Mara as the co-owner of the Giants and think that he is, as joked around with Marash a couple weeks ago, that he is this meddling Jerry Jones-esque type of owner. That he's what Dan Snyder was with the Washington Commanders. Well, that is complete and utter nonsense. And that storyline needs to come to an end. John Mara has hired football people to make football decisions. He is the co-owner of the New York Giants. They are a foundational organization in the National Football League. And what you have learned, if you take away anything from the first 3 episodes here of Offseason with the Giants, Hard Knocks on HBO, and you're taking in nice 37 snappy minutes of entertainment last night on HBO, is that the Giants co-owner is going to ask the necessary questions, is going to look at it not only from an emotional, but also a business perspective to go along with football, and the questions needed to be asked that were asked. And the connection, obviously, that he had from a business perspective is that Saquon not only is a really good football player, but obviously he is the most popular Giant by far. And that is true. But the notion that he has more of a say and is making the final decisions when it comes to player personnel decisions, well, that is complete and utter nonsense. That's takeaway number one. Number two, when you look at Shane and Daboll, I think the thing that you come away with is this. Yes, year 2 was not good. Year 1 was. But from a organizational standpoint, connecting the dots, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, from, the Giants, you get a sense as an organization, from Shane on down, are pretty well run. Have an understanding of what they want to be. When the episode opens and, get after the quarterback, protect the quarterback, get after the quarterback, let's go, right? The text message between Shane and Daboll. And I think when you come away with it is that if you're a Giant fan, yes, the results matter. This is professional sports. You got to go out there, you got to win football games. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can go out there and think that you made the right decision if in the end it doesn't equate to wins on Thursday nights, on Sunday afternoons, Sunday nights, or Monday nights. You know what? You're going to be out of a job. That's the way professional sports works. This is not Little League baseball. It's not Pee Wee football. This is not watching a 9-year-old go out there and skate. You are judged by wins and losses. You are paid handsomely to go out there and do so. And for Daboll and Shane, you get an idea here that, or a sense, and a complete and polar opposite to when Gettleman was running the Giants, where you had little to no confidence. I think as a Giant fan right now, you have to have confidence that the guys that are in the decision-making positions for the New York Football Giants right now, as head coach and general manager, I think you got to feel confident that those two gentlemen have an idea, a vision. Now they have to orchestrate that vision, carry it out, and go win games. When it comes to Barkley, I found it interesting with the back and forth that Joe Shane had with his agent, and where Saquon was. I came away from the episode, and not just last night, but how everything unfolded, and obviously, having conversations with people around the situation. Know that it was a time to move on. Let's be perfectly honest. The Giants emphasized line play. When I grew up thinking about Giant football and used to go to Giant Stadium, every year would get tickets, new Giant season ticket holders, and went to Giants and the Washington game and watching Joe Gibbs on the sideline and all that, and going to a number of games when I was a youngster, right? What defined Giant football? What defined Giant football was obviously great linebacker play led by the greatest defensive player of all time, Lawrence Taylor, but Carl Banks, Harry Carson, Gary Reasons, Pepper Johnson, George Martin up front. Leonard Marshall, run down the list. Mark Collins playing the secondary. But you were defined by the guys up front. You were defined by the ability to go out there. Great linebacker play, tremendous coaching with Parcells, but you were defined, obviously, by the ability to go out there and win at the point of attack. They were also defined by a great ground game. Helped out by Sims, obviously playing quarterback and the like, but still great line play. That has always been kind of the epitome of the Giants, and they have lost their way for quite some time here. But it's been about the defensive line. It's been about the offensive line. When the Giants have won, when they won 07, the best player on the field that day out in Glendale, Arizona, was the Giants defensive lineman. That was Justin Tuck. I know we can get into the miraculous catch by David Tyree, one of the greatest catches, if not the greatest catch in the history of the Super Bowl, but the Giants won that game because they won at the point of attack. Same thing could be said about the 11 Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. The great offensive line they had defensively being able to get after the quarterback as well. And the Giants, slowly but surely, how many years have we talked about it right on these WFAN airwaves about the Giants' inability to protect up front? It was a massive issue for Eli Manning at the end of his career. It's been a massive issue. The Giants have used one draft pick after another on offensive linemen. I don't think there's a team in the National Football League that has used more draft collateral on college prospects than the Giants, and it just has not worked. Well, the Giants as an organization this offseason made the decision, and rightfully so. What do we value? And no one's going to discount the talent of Saquon Barkley. No one's going to discount the talent of Xavier McKinney, even though the Giants were never going to pay him $17 million a year, the deal that he got with the Green Bay Packers. And listen, McKinney is a wonderful player. Great safety. But here's what the Giants emphasized. They emphasized protecting the quarterback and getting after the quarterback. Therefore, the trade with Carolina to go get Brian Burns and the investment in the offensive line when it came to NFL free agency. That's where they wanted to allot their play. That's where they wanted to allot the free money that they had in order to go out there and make this team better consistently. We can get into the quarterback, and we certainly will, and the kind of tease into next week's episode about the interest in Jayden Daniels, and we know the Giants were trying to move up in the draft, and we'll get into the Jones scenario, but that's where the Giants are as an organization right now. It's pretty simple. We can get into schematics. You can look at what defense you run, what kind of offense you run, what your quarterback can or cannot do, where you are at skill position. But really, football is simple. It really is. You can get caught up into a lot of different things, but football is simple. You have to win at the point of attack. And if you don't, eventually you will lose. And the Giants have learned that lesson year in and year out when it comes to the offensive line, which has stunk. And the Giants believe as an organization that the duo of Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns to go along with Dexter Lawrence up the middle and along that defensive front, that defense can impose their will on opposing offenses, make the opposing quarterback uncomfortable, take away their time, get consistent pressure. And you know what? They're right. We learned finally that, the Giants in the end were never going to go where the Philadelphia Eagles went. You heard that John Mara talked about the fact that it would have a sleepless night if Saquon Barkley ended up with the Philadelphia Eagles. I get it. It's Philadelphia. It's a team that has treated the Giants like the redheaded stepchild. But it's the team that the Giants have learned the great lesson from. Because we can get into Barkley and get into A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts at quarterback and what they have. But you know why Philadelphia? Not last year, because the team fell apart for a myriad of different reasons. But you go back a couple years ago when Philadelphia lost a gut-wrenching Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs. What made Philadelphia great? They were unbelievable sack machine as a defense, and they had the best offensive line in the National Football League. And you come away from the episode last night where that's the vision. And make no mistake about it, Joe Schoen and company, they had issues coming in when they took over this organization. There was a great talent disparity between the Giants and everybody else. And slowly but surely, they're going to add to that talent level. So those are the big takeaways. We'll get into Jones and the Giants quarterback situation for sure, but I want to hear from the Giant fan. Those that think that John Mara is some kind of meddling owner, I want to ask you why. Why exactly do you feel that way, especially with what you've seen? If you owned a team, if you owned any entity, if you owned a business, if you owned whatever it might be, questions need to be asked. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are the ultimate decision maker. You might have say over the head coach, but it is clear to me he has turned this organization over to Joe Schoen, Brian Daboll. They're orchestrating their vision. Now it's on those two guys to go win games.